introspection and through reflection, reflecting on ourselves to improve ourselves. On the third day, which was yesterday, we looked at how that reflection takes us back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How diving into ourselves and understanding ourselves teaches us about our Lord and builds our connection and our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we quoted the hadith of our Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi wa sallam, Salli ala Muhammad wa ala, where he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Man arafa nafsuhu faqad arafa rabbuhu. The one who understands himself, the one who recognizes himself, he recognizes his Lord. And so that's where we've reached, building that relationship and that connection with our Lord. But see, here's the deal. When we are looking to build that relationship and that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to stop and ask ourselves, as we do with almost everything else in life, what does it do for me? What does that look like in reality? I've built a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I've built a relationship with Him. Now what? What was the point of building that relationship? Why did I build that relationship? What does it give me? Where do I go now that I've got this relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What does it do for me? See, one thing, and it's a very important thing that connection gives us, is contentment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He speaks again and again in the Holy Quran about contentment. In fact, in these Ayam Azar, we remember one verse very often, which is very famously the verse that was quoted at the time of the Shahadat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, which was what? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'inna, irja'i ila rabbika, radiyatan mardiya. Oh, the content soul, the soul which is happy, the soul which is at peace, return to your Lord. And when you return to your Lord in that way, with nafsul mutma'inna, the content soul, the happy, the peaceful soul, then how does your Lord receive you? How does your Lord find you when you return to Him in that state? Radiyatan mardiya. And He's happy with you. He's pleased with you. See, we have this notion that Islam is meant to be strict and you have to go through all these tests and trials and tribulations, and Islam's there to give you a difficult time in this life, but then you'll be rewarded in the next life. That's not the case at all. See, this life, that's the difficult thing. Living this life, that's difficult. Islam's here to make it easier. Islam's here to make it better. And it can sometimes seem like that's not the case. It can sometimes seem like Islam's making things more difficult. But as you get a more holistic view of the world, as you dive into the world on a more zoomed out level, you realize how much Islam actually does help. How much the teachings of Islam, if the people of the world followed them, how much those teachings would benefit each and every one of those people, be they Muslim or not. Because Islam, it gives us the ideal way of life. It gives us the ideal way that the world should be. And because we've strayed from it, we find that we have so many difficulties and problems in the world. We have so many malaise that we have to deal with in the world, so many problems that come up against us and that come up against society as a whole. See, in truth, Islam is there to give you contentment. It's there to give you peace. It's there to give you happiness, but it's a greater sort of happiness. It's not the same sort of happiness that you might get if you go out on a Friday night. Believe you me, in London it's Clapham. I don't know where in Reading you go if you want to have fun on a Friday night, but if you drive past those areas where you've got all the pubs and the clubs, if you drive past and you look at them, they definitely look like they're having fun. There's no doubt about that. They look like they're enjoying themselves. They look happy. If you look at the people who, I don't know, they earn a haram income, they do fraud, or whatever it is that they do to earn a haram income, they certainly look happy with the money they've got. They certainly look like they're enjoying themselves in their Lambos and their Ferraris and whatever else they have, their brand new Merc. They look like they're enjoying themselves. They've got the things that I want in life. But Islam's telling me, no, the way to be happy isn't through that. These guys look pretty happy to me. They look like they're quite happy when I look their way. See, what we have to recognize is the levels of happiness. And contentment is the highest level of happiness. All these things, these little pleasures, yeah, they might bring you a bit of pleasure, but they don't feed into your contentment. And the way to understand that best is, for instance, let's say one of you is having a wedding. Let's say it's Mehdi's. Mehdi's getting married and he's asked me now to plan the wedding. And he's told me, look, Zaki, plan it. I want it all to look amazing. I want it to be elegant. I want it to be brilliant. And I want a color theme of white and gold. That's the color theme I want. Okay, brilliant. I'm going to set up white and gold. The chairs, they're white with gold ribbons on them. It's brilliant. The tables, they're white tablecloths with I don't know, like a white thread around them or thread around them. Everything is perfect. The stage, white and gold, everything is amazing. And I come to Mehdi and I say, Mehdi, I found you the perfect Sherwani. It is the most brilliant Sherwani you'll ever see. It's beautiful, it is elegant, it's brilliant. You're not going to find anything better than this. And I present to him a bright red Sherwani. It looks beautiful, there's no doubt. It looks amazing, it's brilliant. But it doesn't go with his theme. It doesn't go with everything else in the room. It doesn't go with this whole thing that we've built. It doesn't deny that, look, he might look good in that Sherwani, that's fine. He might look good, but this whole big picture that you've built, it just doesn't fit. It doesn't match into that bigger picture. And when it doesn't match into that bigger picture, then he'll look out of place in that bigger picture. You've got this amazing, elegant hall. Everything's beautiful. His Sherwani's beautiful too, but it's out of place. It doesn't work. It messes up the whole image of everything around it. The same way, these little pleasures you have in life, yeah, they might bring you happiness for an hour, 2 hours, a weekend. They might do that much. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't fit into this bigger picture. It doesn't fit into this bigger theme of contentment, of the highest level of happiness you can reach. It doesn't fit into that bigger picture. And because it doesn't fit into that bigger picture, we put it to one side. You move it away. You don't wear that Sherwani because it doesn't fit with what I want. It doesn't fit with what I'm looking for. So you have to figure out, am I looking for happiness for one night, for one weekend, for a month maybe? Or am I looking for happiness in life? Am I looking for a life where I'm content and I'm happy and I'm peaceful? When you have that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we spoke about yesterday, it becomes so much easier to see clearly what fits into my bigger picture and what doesn't. It gives you clarity, what works for me and what doesn't. What's giving me happiness just in the moment and what's actually feeding into my contentment, which is what I'm really looking for. What's actually feeding into what I really and truly am after. That's what your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you. But how? How does it give you that? A, everything you do will be more bearing in mind of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's presence and existence in your life. When you look around and you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala around you, it's much more difficult to turn around and do that which He says not to do. It's like, for instance, if your parents tell you not to do something. Your parents tell you, I don't know, whatever it is, it could be anything. Your parents have told you you're not allowed to do that. All right, fine. Let's say you do it anyway. You shouldn't, but you do it anyway. Are you more likely to do it when your parents are standing there in front of you or when they're outside of the room? The likelihood is you're going to wait for them to be looking away and then you're going to do it. Often when we make a mistake in life, when we transgress and go against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's because we forget He's watching us. We forget that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us at all times. It's like He never left the room. When you see Him everywhere, it's like I realize now that He's with me at all times. He was there whether I realized it or not. But when I do realize it, when I'm conscious of it, I'm much less likely to go against Him. The other thing it gives me, which is possibly the most crucial thing, is it gives me purpose. It gives me purpose in life. And the reason that purpose is so important is, one, it gives you direction. When I have a purpose in life, I know what I'm looking towards. I know what I'm trying to achieve. I know where I'm going. Not only does it give you direction, it tells you which direction you want to go in. That bigger picture, that's your direction. But not only does purpose give you direction, but it also shows you your progress. See, when you have purpose, when you have an aim and a target, you can see progress, and that gives you motivation. That helps you on in life. See, for those of you who've, I don't know, been to the gym, for instance, it can be tough, it can be difficult. But when you see those muscles growing, when you see your belly getting smaller, when you see your fitness getting better, all of a sudden you think, yeah, tomorrow I'm going to be back. The day after, I'll be back. But if, like me, you used to go gym and then as you get older, the effects aren't as immediate. You know, when you first start going gym when you're 14, 15, 16, within a week, you've got that pump. You come home, you're looking in the mirror, you're like, wow, I look good. You're taking pictures topless, hopefully not to send anyone, but you're taking them anyway. You're doing all of that, right? You start thinking, maybe I should start an Instagram page, track my progress, let everyone see it. You're excited, you're ready, you want to go, you want to do it. But over time, that progress slows down a bit. Your body becomes a bit more used to the weights that you're lifting, and that progress, it slows. All of a sudden now, your muscles aren't popping the way they were before. Or it's not like last week my muscles were this big and now I'm looking this big. Now I've gone from an extra small to a medium. Now you can't see that progress as much. all of a sudden the motivation, it starts to die down a little bit as well. It's a lot easier to miss a day when you don't see the results. I remember when it was lockdown, there wasn't a lot we could do. So I thought to myself, you know what, we're allowed to go jogging. Let me try jogging. I'll try it. So I thought to myself, okay, I'll jog. There's a park not too far from my house. I'll jog around the park and jog back home. Honestly, about 2 minutes into the journey, I was jogging. I was thinking to myself, why am I doing this? I'm ending up at the same place I started off. I was happy at home. There was no need for me to do this. I hated it. Hated every second of it. Same thing with being on a treadmill. You're on a treadmill, you're jogging, but you don't have a target. You don't know where you're going. It can be very difficult. If you're able to maintain that motivation and go, mashallah, credit to you. But it can be difficult. And it's more difficult when you don't know what that target is. But when you know your target, you know I'm getting closer. You can see that I'm getting closer and closer to it. When you do exercise, if you have a target in mind, for instance, I want to improve my fitness. It's one of the quickest targets you can achieve. You'll see the difference within a week, and then within 2 weeks, and then within 3 weeks. You'll see yourself, your fitness getting better and better. And you realize, you know what? I'm doing something good. I'm seeing progress. But when you don't have a target, it's like the hamster and the guinea pig in the wheel. It's constantly running and that wheel is turning, but it's not getting anywhere. It's not going anywhere. And when you're not getting anywhere, when you're not going anywhere, it's so much harder to carry on doing what you're doing. It's so much harder to keep at it and to keep going. That connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it gives you a purpose. That purpose gives you motivation because you can see, I started off here. This is where I want to reach. That's my purpose. That's my goal. And this is the distance that I've traveled so far. This is how much further I've got left. For those of you who have done the walk from Najaf to Karbala at Arba'een time, and inshallah we all get to go again and again, the moment where you first see the haram of Imam Hussein alayhi salam as you arrive in Karbala, you realize this difficult walk that I've been on, all of a sudden I've got this new energy. I'm ready to get to the haram. The whole time you were thinking, all I can wait for is to get back to the hotel, put my bag down, have a clean shower, whatever it is. But you see that haram and all of a sudden you're thinking, that's where I want to go. I want to go to the haram of Abul Fadl Abbas. I want to go to the haram of Imam Hussein. Why? Because you see your destination. It gives you more energy. When you know your end point and you see it getting closer, you get more energy. You get that motivation, that boost, because you can see it getting closer. You can see there's an impact to what you're doing. There's something worthwhile about what you're doing. So what is that purpose that our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us? What is that purpose that this relationship gives us? It's all well and good me coming up here and saying it gives you purpose, but what is that purpose? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran in Surah Dariyat, He says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And we did not create the jinns and the humans except to worship. To worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the purpose of each and every one of us. Worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's important to recognize that worship is our purpose. But what does worship look like? What is the basis of worship? What is worship in and of itself? Because see, yesterday, or rather the day before, we spoke about worship. And what did we say? We said that 1 hour's worth of reflection and introspection, this isn't from me, this is a hadith. 1 hour's worth of reflection and introspection is better than a whole year's worth of worship. Better than a whole year's worth of ibadah. So if my whole purpose is ibadah, if my whole purpose is worship, then how do I take this verse? Am I meant to leave behind that worship, which is my whole purpose, and instead just focus on reflecting on myself? What do I do? How do I understand the two? See, here we're talking about what you call your explicit ibadat, which we've spoken about over the course of the series as well. Your namaz, your roza, your hajj, your zakat, your recitation of Quran and du'as. That's explicit ibadat. The very obvious ones where you see someone praying, you're like, yeah, he's worshipping. But you can worship in any way, shape or form. Maulana in the Urdu Majlis, he spoke about it. I think it might have even been on the very first day. Anything you do can be worship. You can turn football into worship, so long as it's halal. You can turn anything into worship. In fact, if it's to save your life, something haram can even become worship. To save your life only though, don't go start doing things that are haram and saying that, you know, my niyyah was good. See, anything in the right circumstance can turn into worship. The key being your niyyah, your intention. Anything halal, at any time can turn into worship. For you, going gym can be worship, playing football can be worship, talking to your friends can be worship. But how? When you remember that purpose in mind. Your purpose and your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it comes first. It's like this funnel. everything that you can fit into that funnel can become worship. If you can't fit it in there, then leave it aside. Don't worry about it because it doesn't fit into that bigger picture we were talking about. But put everything through that funnel and you'll see everything can become worship with the right intention, with the right niyyah. Now, when we think about worship, obviously we think about namaz, we think about fasting, we think about Quran, we think about dua. But even these types of worship, there's a story, and evidently it seems it's from around a time shortly after the time of Nabi Musa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wished to send down His azab, He wished to send down His punishment on this town, on these people. So He sends Jibreel down to send punishment on these people. For whatever their sin was, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided the time has come now where they've broken the banks of forgiveness and they will be punished. So Allah sends down Jibreel. Jibreel goes, and before He punishes them, He returns back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, Ya Allah, normally whenever you send me to punish a town or a people or a nation, you save the few good individuals out of them first. You save them first. I've gone down and I've seen there is one man who's on the musalla, he's reciting salah, he's calling out to you. He seems to be a good man. Oh Allah, should I save him first? And we see it. With all the prophets, their nations were punished. The prophets were saved. Nabi Lut, Nabi Nuh, Nabi Musa. The good were saved. Nabi Musa, the sea was split. They go through. Nabi Nuh, he built an ark. They were saved from the floods. We see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves the good. So here Jibreel returns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, do you want me to remove this man in some way to save him from your azab, from your punishment? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does He say in that moment? He says, Bihi ibtadir. It starts with him. The punishment begins with that man who's calling out to me. That man who's remembering me. Ya Allah, where's the justice in this? That man is calling out to you. He is the only believer in that whole town, evidently. How does it begin with him? Not just that he will be part of that punishment, he will face punishment, but it begins with him? Ya Allah, how's that possible? And the reply comes, because that worship of his on the musalla calling out to me, it's no good to me if he doesn't care about the rest of the town. The rest of his people are all committing sin. The rest of his people are all going about whatever this sin is that's caused them to be punished, and he didn't care even once to stop them. He sat on that musalla and he called out to me, but does he really care about me if he didn't try and stop anybody else from doing that thing which I dislike? Your ibadah is not just the musalla. The musalla is a very important part of it. Your namaz is a critical part of it, but it's not the entirety of your ibadah. If you want to see the most beautiful example of what your ibadah is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran, He gives an instruction. He says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu ansar Allah. O you who believe, be amongst the helpers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first thing to notice is, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. This is for those people who have faith, who have believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who have believed in His religion completely and fully. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what He says next is enough to confuse any one of us. Kunu ansar Allah. Be amongst the helpers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Ya Allah, how can I possibly help you? How can I ever help my Lord who is independent, my Lord who designed me, my Lord who created me, my Lord without whom I cannot do anything? I cannot move my hand from here to here without the power of my Lord. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me that power. Bihawlillahi wa quwwatihi aqumu wa qu'ud. We say in salah, every rak'ah which we rise from, what do we say? With the power that you have given me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I rise and I sit, I stand and I sit. Everything is with the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you want to see the absolute proof of that, go look at the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. The same man who can with one hand lift the gates of Khaybar, which it takes 40 men to lift. The same man who with one swift strike of a sword can split Marhab in two and drive his sword completely through him. The same man with that level of strength, when you go to look at him and watch him while he eats, what do you see? Amir al-Mu'mineen cannot break the bread in two without hitting it against his knee. Where did all that strength go? Ya Ali, where did all that strength go? You lifted Khaybar, you won battle after battle. Where's all that strength gone now? You can't break a piece of bread with your own two hands? The answer will come. That strength comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In one moment He can give it to me, in one moment He can take it away from me. That's Amirul Mu'mineen. That is one of Allah's most favored people in all of the alameen. Now you tell me, can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not take power away from me and you, from our hands and our feet, our ability to see and think and hear, our ability to build relationships? You think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can't take that all away within a second? Of course He can. Of course He can. And we won't ever see it coming. It comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here in the Quran is telling me, Kunu Ansar Allah, be amongst the helpers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How on earth am I meant to help Allah? When I am so entirely dependent on Him, how can I help Him? And the answer is in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works in this world. Many of you who are older in this room, there will have come a time in your life at some point, even some of you who are younger, you will have raised your hands and you have said, oh, Ya Allah, I need money. In whatever way you say that dua, oh Allah, I need money. I haven't got a job, oh Allah, give me a job. Oh Allah, I want to start a business, make my business successful. Oh Allah, whatever way you make that dua, I need money. And it's true, we all need money in life. Oh Allah, I need money. And for those of you who had your dua accepted, how many of you saw a hand come out of the sky with a sack full of cash? You don't see that. How many of you saw an angel come down to your doorstep with a briefcase full of money? You don't have that. What happened? Somebody came and they gave you an opportunity for a job. Somebody came and they helped you with a business, they supported you. Somebody came and they gave you an idea to start up something yourself which ended up making you money. You see, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants work done on this earth, He chooses His loyal servants and tells them, I want you to do this work for me. Every time somebody raises their hands in dua, Allah looks to the nation of Muslims and He says, you know what? Today I choose you. You will do my work for me today. You will be the one who becomes the answer to that dua. You will be the one who will carry out the maslahat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the will and the desire of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this world, in this earth. That's what it means when Allah says, Kunu Ansar Allah. And how blessed must we be to be amongst those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, I want you to do what I want for me. When I want something done, I want you to be the one to do it. He could choose anyone. The whole world, billions of people. He could choose anyone, but He chooses you. And He chooses you again and again and again, and we don't even realize it. Every interaction I have with someone, it leaves an impact on them. Now we have to think, am I being someone who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, help me in this matter, do this matter for me, carry out this action for me? Or am I somebody who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will overlook? Am I somebody who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will see me and think, no, he's not worthy of doing my work for me. He's not capable of doing my work for me. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu ansar Allah. And I'm wrapping up. I'm going about this quite quickly because of the time. If you want to be someone who adheres to this ayah, who follows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's instruction, who can say for themselves, I am one of the ansar of Allah, one of the helpers of my Lord, make sure you're worthy of that. Recognize your purpose in ibadah is to be one of the ansar of Allah. Your purpose, which we're looking for, which we're talking about, is to be a helper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But very quickly, how do I figure out what kind of help Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from me? How do I figure out what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to do? How can I realize that? Because I'm not Nabi Musa, there's not going to be a burning bush or a burning tree where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's voice comes out of. I'm not Rasulullah that I'll be called up to the heavens and spoken to through a veil directly by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No. So I have to look for the answers myself, and the answers are in the blessings that Allah gives you. Allah's blessed everyone with different talents. I know it's not always obvious when you look at some people, but everyone has some talent or another. Everyone's good at something or another. Somebody might be, I don't know, I've used the example of gym a few times. They might be super motivated to go gym. Maybe what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you in this life is to get your community fit and healthy and active. Maybe somebody is really good with their people skills. They're really good at developing relationships with people, becoming friends with people. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be the person that when somebody new walks into the mosque, you make them feel welcome instead of making them feel like they don't belong there. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's given you the ability to use your intellect very well. Now, how will you use your intellect? Will you use your intellect to further the cause of Islam, to do research, I don't know, translate books, or to do your own research, new research into understanding, to teach other people about Islam? Or will you use intellect for other things? Look at what you're good at. And it's not gloating, it's not showing off, it's not boasting. Recognize, I'm good at this thing. how can I use it to help Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And whatever it is, there is a way. If you're good at art, start art therapy, start creative classes for young children, help them in the madrasa, do a workshop. Today we're going to draw a picture of Karbala, help them visualize what happened. Whatever it is that is your talent, whatever it is that you're good at, if you work in the IT profession and you're good at what you do, are you able to use that for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?